device back. What does that mean? Oh, here?
I think you may need to unlock your orientation.
What is that?
So you have an orientation lock on in your settings. So you may need to rotate the device the other way.
Okay.
Or change your rotation lock so it can auto do that.
Do you know how to do that?
Yeah,
Please?
so let's see. Okay, so it says portrait orientation lock off. Hi. This is where I'm really not sure what this is.
I hope we're not on right now. Do you mind calling the office and seeing if we're on?
Hi, everybody. We are on.
If we're on, we had a...
We're going to call our technical support line here.
Yeah. Rotate device back.
Can we unlock? Like...
Does that do it?
No, I think that just changes the camera. Here, let's see this. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it says live. I think we're
Is it live?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Okay, I think this is happening.
Let's go. Let's go for it. Okay.
Oh, wait, maybe we need to go. It's rotated like this. There we go. There's no thing there.
Uh-huh.
Is that all right?
I guess, but we're going to have to... Let's put different Velcro here.
Okay. We're adjusting our Velcro. And hi.
This is the hazards of live streaming for the very first time here. Put this here. We got some Velcro snaps on the car. Very good ones.
Okay.
I'll do one more.
All right. So what seemed like incompetence was actually a clever ruse to do some to buy time. For Grant to get the car started.
We got a message there.
Hi, everybody's on.
Okay, we're on. We're going. We had. Thank you guys. Thank you for tolerating that initial confusion. This is the first time we've done this. It's also a shame that we're doing this vertical angle here.
I love that you get to see, though, the rearview mirror. This is an important part of NaNoWriMo history.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk some NaNoWriMo history. You're going to mainly see Chris, I think, because I'll be driving. But we're doing a NaNoWriMo tour of Berkeley and the East Bay. We're going to go way back to its roots, way back to the beginning, because the NaNoWriMo road trip's been going since 1999.
Yeah, should we turn off this music?
Oh.
Yeah. All right.
Let's turn off the music. We got our lattes. We had a shaky intro, but we're going to have fun.
It was intentionally shaky.
It was intentionally shaky because it's going to get so much. You guys, thank you for whoever said we're hilarious.
T-Chain.
It's going to get funnier. You know that YouTube series, Comedians in Cars?
Yes.
Yeah, Writers in Cars, way better. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just let's talk it out.
So, yeah, it's already hilarious. Anyway, hi everybody. You guys look great. So Grant and I were kind of talking about which giant pen we wanted to bring with us of the Nano Arsenal. We decided on the red one. Which red has been kind of a historic NaNoWriMo color for the last, I would say, good 45 seconds since we discovered that there was a red pen in the back. But yeah, so
to help distressed novelists.
We are currently parked in front of where I currently live, and we're gonna head back in time to the wonders of where NaNoWriMo was born, which is in the Lake Merritt neighborhood of Oakland, California. Grant's gonna drive us there.
I'm gonna drive, and hopefully not wreck, and hopefully not get stopped by our local authorities.
Yeah.
So here we go. We're going. All right. So
this is amazing. Okay.
So I have a question, Chris.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Despite knowing you for a long time, despite working at NaNoWriMo for a long time, I don't know truly what happened in that seminal moment when you got the concept, right? 50,000 words in a month.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
Where
turn right here.
Turn right, okay.
So this was, at this point, 18 years ago. And I would say that any story that I tell is kind of, has been somewhat affected by my poor memory. Mm-hmm. So I feel like NaNoWriMo started, it was back in 1999. I was being attacked by a pride of lions. As part of my defense mechanism, I thought, maybe there's a noveling way out of this. I'm just kidding.
Good.
There were no lions involved whatsoever. So turn left here.
Good.
So I think when I think about like NaNoWriMo starting, I think a lot about where I was at that moment, which, so I was 26 years old. And I think that for me, it was just kind of this moment of wanting to create something, right? Go right. And I have, so I lived in this building, we're going to get on the highway right here, with a group of friends. We all were kind of living in Oakland at this time and sort of living in one of these like beautiful low rent structures that have enabled a lot of creativity.
That's where you got to start. You got to start low rent.
So
when in doubt.
Yeah. So one of the things I would say, we're not going to get off here. We're going to basically head to the West Grand exit.
Just so everybody knows, we're on a beautiful Bay Area highway here, Oakland, and I almost got a little better.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
So that, in fact, like when I think about sort of like the lessons of NaNoWriMo, one of the lessons that I learned is that when you are just out of college, having, which I was, having like a reasonably affordable place to live can be a springboard to like a lot of interesting things. It means you can travel more, and I think it also means that you can sort of end up going all in on these somewhat crazy ideas, which for me, NaNoWriMo was just like, I had always wanted to write a novel, and writing a novel is terrifying, right? Who knows how to write a novel?
No one, really.
No human being
truly. If they say they know how to write a novel, they might write a novel, but knowing how to write a novel and writing a novel are two different, totally different things.
So anyway, I think this universal truth that no human being knows how to write a novel became very clear to me personally. But I did have a lot of enthusiasm around it. I think like nothing was cooler to me than a book, So I think this idea of like gathering some of the people, including some of the people who lived in this building that we're going to, which I think if you get over a lane, you're not going to go to San Francisco Hayward.
Okay. We're in a little traffic jam here.
Yeah. In fact,
Chris wants me to get in the faster lane.
Yeah. So
everyone's going fast though.
This idea of kind of making writing like a group endeavor kind of came naturally to this moment where like I just feel like in your 20s, like in the best case scenario, you have this group of friends who have time, they have very kind of like they're sort of up for a lot of dumb things, and that was me. It was amazing. I was up for dumb things, and
now you're not. Right?
And I was up for organizing dumb things. I'm still up for dumb things.
You're a very sensible, mature adult.
Anything, hit me up with anything, any ideas you have. I'm there. And we're gonna stay right in this lane. You're doing a great job.
Good.
So I think living in this place that
it's all about the rent.
That the rent was very low, the enthusiasm was very high, the standards for what we would do and not do were non-existent, and so in looking at what might be kind of this interesting creative activity, I came up with this idea that we would all write books, and by all, it basically meant kind of just like this group of friends that were living in Oakland, where we're going. We're in Oakland now, we're going to Oakland. Oakland is a vast place, there's a lot of being in it and then still going to it. So we're now heading to the place that I lived for basically a decade, which if you want to Google map it, we're going to we're going to 77 Vernon Street in Oakland, California, and this is basically like the accidental birthplace of NaNoWriMo. This is a very
are there historical markers there, or I would imagine the city of Oakland would put up big banners outside.
Oh my God, there are nonstop like tour groups and this is where we were, and before I like sent out this email, when I was like, okay, I think we want to write books, we want to do it in a month, we're gonna sort of lower our standards for quality, we're gonna increase this sense of like connection and community and joy. I went downstairs to a couple friends of mine, Tim and Rolf, who lived in the building, and I was like, what do you guys think of this idea? Neither one of them are writers. One of them was a PhD grad student in psychology at the time. The other's a cartographer who hated writing. And they were like all in. They were like, yes, let's do this. And I think at that point I was like, okay, at the very least, Tim and Rolf will do this with me. And I think if you have like Tim and Rolf doing it with you, then I think that's like half the battle.
And you're like, Tim and Rolf, someday 500,000 people will do this. And I will be in a car telling stories about it.
So once I had the Tim and Rolf demographic locked in, I think I wrote this email where I kind of declared July National Write a Novel Month and came up with this idea of like 200 book pages. So that was the original thing, is like, we're going to do 200 book pages. And I think part of the problem was a book page can be a very, like, that's an unclear exact quantity, right? If you use a 25-point font, you fill up a book page pretty quickly. And I realized that the propensity towards cheating and shenanigans were going to be high. And so before the event actually started, we kind of went into this idea of like, okay, maybe it's going to be more word count based. So that first year, I think there were 21 people. Most of them lived in my neighborhood, kind of in and around Oakland and Berkeley. So now we are getting ever closer to where we're going, 77 Vernon Street, which is in, again, the Lake Merritt neighborhood.
I wonder what the rent of your apartment is now.
Yeah, so my rent back then, which was amazing, it started out at $525 a month, which if you live in the Bay Area, if you have friends and family in the Bay Area, you know that having a small one-bedroom apartment for $525 is a deal.
Even in 1999.
Yeah. So I think that was like the springboard for it, was just this idea of getting a group of friends together, attempting to write books, definitely not knowing quite what we were doing, but also knowing no human being has ever known what they were doing when writing a book.
Yeah, so how does not knowing how to write a book help you write a book? Or does it?
Yes, I think it does a lot. So when I was in college, I went to UC Berkeley, and there it's really hard to get into any creative writing classes. And so I tried to get into creative writing classes, but never was able to do it. Like, you had to like kill somebody. You had to kill the better writer in order to take their pelt, and then you would move in from there. So you're going to go straight here.
Okay.
And you're going to make a left at the Whole Foods.
All right.
And so I was an anthropology major and loved anthropology, studied anthropology. Never really thought that, I didn't take writing classes because you couldn't really get into them. Turn left here. And I think because of that, like, I never did the writing workshops. I never had the feedback. I think I just had this like a love of the novels and a sense that you had to be superhuman to actually make one. Which
has been disproven.
Yeah. Human beings can write novels. So this group that ended up kind of being that, like, yes, that momentum, which I think is like really important for everything. Anytime you're trying something new and you don't really understand how it works, I think it's just helpful to have like a group of people, or a kind of like some process, a structure that kind of helps you see it through. So we're going to make a left up here.
Okay. And there's Vernon.
Yeah. So we are almost on Vernon Street. We are now next to a Whole Foods that used to be an abandoned Buick dealership. This was back when I lived here. The 7-Eleven, however, was always here.
Nice.
Okay, we're going to turn left here, and we're going to head halfway up the hill. I'm seeing notes that the connection is bad and spotty. I'm hoping once we kind of get up towards the top of the hill, the internet will get better. Okay, so keep going past these cars, turning into the Whole Foods.
Okay.
And so I would say 77 Vernon Street is like one of the, you might call it the least attractive building on the block.
I'll look for that.
And it is right here.
That is it's still the least attractive looking building on the block. Actually, that looks like a very low rent building. It looks, there's some nice buildings here.
Okay, so I will describe where we are right now. 77 Vernon Street. The paint is peeling. The paint has not been. This is exactly what it looked like. It's basically like a 2-story building. I would say probably like a 1968 chic. And so
1968 chic.
Yeah. This is when the first NaNoWriMo started. Like, this has been kind of like historic. Place where we had the first like kickoff sessions. We also this was where the very first TGIO party took place. So the Thank God It's Over party was born here. It involved literally 5 people sitting on the floor of my apartment. I bought everybody that won that year a bottle of Safeway champagne, the finest vintage of champagne, Safeway champagne.
Safeway branded.
Safeway brand champagne, exactly. And we ended up reading. So that year, like, people, we had a lot of people doing different things. So most people were working on novels. One friend did a graphic novel. We came up with like an equivalency, like an image really was worth X number of words, not 1,000, but something near that. And it ended up just being like such a nice, moving experience to have this like moment of completion and feeling like these books were like definitely promising, or at least interesting, or had some potential. That was where I was like, okay, we got to do this again next year. And so that group, the like Rolf and Tim group who lived in the building, ended up becoming like the accidental core of this accidental writing movement, where that was where like the first website started to come in, where we had a NaNoWriMo.net or there was some like really like
other
bargain
URL.
basement URL for a while, but the website kind of became this like it just looked a little more polished, but it was still like you had to, in order to register for the second and then again the third National Novel Writing Month event, you had to go to a registration page where all it said was send this information to Chris Baty, email it to me, and then I would create your profile for you in HTML, hand alphabetize your name on the registration page, personally send you an invite to join the Yahoo Club, which functioned as our like forums. All of which would take like 5 minutes per sign up.
Wow.
So yeah, it was. I would say like painful is a great word for it.
Yeah.
But when you imagine that you're going to have like 300 people, it's not the end of the world, right?
Right.
I think the filling out your profile involved you also telling me like what your astrological sign was, how old you were.
You got to know a lot of people.
Yeah. So that group in this building, again, we're in front of 77 Vernon Street, which is in Oakland. That crew that had kind of been the original like Yes group came in and like saved the day, where we ended up having 5,000 people sign up that first year. There was like a multi-day backlog of like processing people, and so we ended up setting up this like super crude network where from one apartment that had the high-speed internet, we ran Cat5 cables out the window up the side of the building into my apartment, so we would have multiple people who could access the same HTML files, and then just basically did this around-the-clock, Red Bull-fueled, carpal tunnel destroying registration session.
That's amazing. It's amazing that NaNoWriMo from that very beginning.
I want to get you in here.
I'm Grant, by the way.
Yeah, hi Grant.
It's amazing to me that NaNoWriMo has always been about the community from the very beginning. Like you guys writing together, but also making it work.
Yeah.
Just everything behind the scenes. And I don't know of any other writing community remotely like this. I think that's the magic of NaNoWriMo. People coming together.
I think there was a lot of also this like making it up as you go spirit that I think fueled so many people's rough drafts, like fueled the organization itself, you know, where it's like, did we know how to make a website? Like, clearly not. I would say there's a lot of...
We have learned a lot. If you're donating for our new redesign, we've moved beyond the cables in the apartment building here. I was thinking we could do something special sometime and come back and reenact that.
Yeah, the cabling.
Yeah.
But like, so one of the things also just to show like how little I understood about both websites and human nature. So once I discovered that like, oh God, there are a lot of people who are interested in taking part in this, it became clear that like this idea of people emailing me to give to create their profiles was not going to work. And the idea, too, was that I was going to verify everybody's word count, which is how it worked for the first 2 years, where you would actually send me your novel, and I would run word count over it.
In Microsoft Word?
Yeah. So that wasn't going to
Magic.
happen. So thankfully, we had a computer programmer who was taking part, who stepped up and said, I can automate at least the word count updating part of it. And I was like, okay, great. And then he said, how do you want to set up the password system? Because nobody had a password because nobody had an account. And I was like, we don't need to password protect anything. Nobody's going to want to change another person's word count. Like, who would want to do that? So not only did it launch and people immediately started changing each other's word count, but somebody used that form field that had no protection on it to launch a virus into the website on day one of NaNoWriMo 3.
Oh, no.
And this is, anyway, and so then we got over that. The hackers ended up, I think, putting scantily clad pictures of scantily clad tennis players. Like, that was the ultimate hack. That's how innocent.
Hacking was very innocent back in the early 2000s. I love that. We're going to really mess with them.
Yeah, tennis players all over this website.
Okay.
So anyway, we're parked in front of 77 Vernon Street, if you're just tuning in.
Yeah.
Grant and I are here talking about kind of the early days of the NaNoWriMo website, which was built without a lot of knowledge of webs or sites. And but from that, I think we ended up getting through this pretty difficult moment of trying to hand register 5,000 people, coming up with some automated way. And we also needed that year this idea of verification. How do you verify a novel if you're not going to be emailing it to me? And so we did this. I came up with this what felt like a genius idea, which was you would find a buddy and you would verify each other's novels.
Uh-huh.
And those of you who took part in National Novel Writing Month 3, the third year of NaNoWriMo, you may remember the collective gasp of disappointment around this idea, which I was like, it's on the honor system. You are winning nothing. All you get is the experience of writing this novel.
Yeah.
Find a buddy, verify a novel. And it was just basically the mobs formed. They were just it's like you've set up a marathon and taken away the finish line. And I felt horrible, and then I was briefly well, maybe I could verify all 5,000 novels, and then that was clearly a horrible idea. So we made it through that year, but I think one of the things that site did in the early days was it started to give people a central place to get together, and that was the first year that we started having Thank God It's Over parties that had just started really basically in my apartment and then grew to a slightly larger thing in South African game parks and in Tokyo and in all these places, Austin, Texas, that it was so exciting to start to see people getting together and kind of doing what we had done, which is just celebrate the kind of the folly and the beauty of what had just happened. And I think that this was the beginning of basically a web-based community that had both a real world component and an online component. I think that was kind of a little new too, where I think there were web communities. This was back in 2001. It's things were still pretty new. There were blogs, but this is still pre-social media.
Yeah.
I think Friendster was right around the corner. Those of you who are in the audience, Sushi, when did Friendster come out? Let's have some.
Sushi's the source. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll know all of this stuff. But I think that was kind of the amazing thing about it is you could go to a write-in in New York City. Sushi does know all. And meet these people that you had kind of seen on the NaNoWriMo message boards, and it was such a great recipe for helping people do more than they realized was possible and help hold them accountable to this kind of crazy idea, which is that we all need to be making time for creativity. We need to be tackling these large, scary, exciting challenges.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be kind of a great vehicle for that. So I think that all of that's kind of started here at 77 Vernon Street in Oakland with just a small group of people, residents of the apartment building, kind of encouraging people. It was 2002, says Sushi. So great. We were before
Friendster.
There was NaNoWriMo, the original friendship hub for creative people all around the world.
Yeah. For those of you, we're so sorry we can't position the camera off of my Velcro snaps in the car to show you 77 Vernon. But we're going to... Do you want to take a picture? We can put it on Instagram?
Yeah.
Do you want to pop out, and I'll do some
Yes.
some talking about
Okay.
this
car may need to get
this
in.
drive. We're in a somewhat precarious situation. Somebody's staring at me with malevolence. That's the word. But now she can get into her parking space. It was my fault. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has donated or who has written during NaNoWriMo. You guys make it happen. We're doing this big great NaNoWriMo road trip to take NaNoWriMo into the next chapter. You know, that's part of the reason Chris and I are driving around telling stories or hearing his stories. We want to revisit the beginning of the NaNoWriMo road trip and then talk about where we are and where we're going. So plenty of really fun stories to come. I want to make sure Chris didn't get hit by a car. Here he comes. We'll post this on Instagram later today. And
hey,
here we go. What's our next stop?
Okay, I think from here we should go to the very first NaNoWriMo office.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Good. Now, well, the one thing I know about the first NaNoWriMo office, which I've never visited, but I do know part of the lore is that there was no hot water there.
There was no hot water in the
original.
God, I can't remember. The jacuzzi, definitely, the in-office jacuzzi was rarely functional. Okay, so those of you who are riding with us, I think last time we drove, keep going straight, the connection got kind of spotty. So if it gets laggy and weird, just know that this is a good time for like a bathroom break, a snack break. We're just kind of cruising around the Lake Merritt neighborhood. Keep going straight.
Okay.
So anyway, the idea of having like an office for National Novel Writing Month had become an increasingly important necessity. Because my apartment, which again was a very small one-bedroom apartment, had also become sort of like the warehouse for NaNoWriMo merchandise. So from the early days, the idea of having like a t-shirt seemed really cool. And I love t-shirts, and participants in National Novel Writing Month were into this idea of having something that they could wear to get-togethers to help identify themselves. So t-shirts were great, and I have incredible difficulty making selections on merch, where we have amazing graphic designers who come up with these different options. This could be, we could have a typewriter on the t-shirt, or we could have a talking badger on the t-shirt, and I'm like, yes, all of those. We need to have all of those. And also people like different kinds of t-shirts, different styles of t-shirts. So let's get all the different cuts, fits, and colors. So what would happen in any given National Novel Writing Month year is that we would have like multiple designs. If you were part of the 2002 National Novel Writing Month year, you will know that in fact there were ultimately 18 different combinations of slogan, logo, color, fit, so all of those would live in tubs in my apartment, and the fulfillment operation of National Novel Writing Month was basically like me with a lot of Tyvek mailers, and kind of stuffing them in through the wee hours of the night, printing whatever primitive postage existed in that time. I think it was just, you would just kind of like color on them with a crayon, and then I would drop them off in drop boxes, basically like the mailboxes in my neighborhood, filling an entire one and then moving on to the next one and filling it. So there were, at any given point, there might be 600 different bits of NaNoWriMo merch left over.
Well, thank God you weren't still manually doing the word count tabulations during all this.
Yes, you can either be a fulfillment operation or be a registrant processing operation. National Novel Writing Month, by, I would say it's 5th year or so, had grown to the point that we really needed to start having a space. And that was one of the most exciting things, the idea of having an office. I think as a kid, I was like, someday
Did you get a briefcase?
I have an office. There was no briefcase. There still has not been a briefcase. So we started looking around for spaces, and this was also the time when National Novel Writing Month had grown to the point that becoming a 501c3 nonprofit and a kind of officially registered charity seemed to make increasing amounts of sense because it was here for the long haul, and like this wasn't anything that I was interested in like making a profit on. I just wanted this to kind of exist indefinitely and kind of be there to like help other people get the kick in the pants that I think I and my friends and other people had been doing it over the years had gotten from it. So we're gonna go left. So we're now in the uptown neighborhood of Oakland, and we are going to turn left onto Telegraph Avenue. So Telegraph Avenue is when we moved in here in the uptown neighborhood was pretty sleepy. There wasn't a lot going on, which I think made it possible for a brand new nonprofit to find an office space. And the office space that we ended up finding was actually in the lobby of the old YMCA in Uptown in Oakland. After the 1989 earthquake, the building was damaged in a way that like the pool was no longer sustainable, and so they carved up the lobby of the YMCA into rentable spaces. And it was incredibly beautiful. It was like very high ceilings. The building is like all brick. And the address is 2101 Telegraph Avenue. If you want to, again, follow along. First, we were at 77 Vernon Street, which is where I lived for 10 years, the birthplace of NaNoWriMo. Yeah. And then on into sort of our first offices. And immediately after we moved into these offices, we hired the first employee, which is Tavia. Amazing. Big shout out to Tavia, who... You know, and this was, again, like this moment, those of you who've like started small businesses, it feels surreal to hire somebody. Like NaNoWriMo had always relied on kind of contractors for web work and helping answer emails. Exactly. But this idea of like having somebody who is making big life decisions and moving from San Francisco to Oakland to do this job was pretty incredible and also very daunting, where you're just like, oh wow, people now are depending on this. So this is the building. Here? I would say like park maybe right here.
Right. Yeah. Look, they saved a parking space for us.
They saved a parking space for us. It wasn't that hard to pull this off. Like, do you really? We can't take people on a journey to see the building.
Should we do it? I mean, I'm worried about motion sickness.
Okay, never mind. Forget it.
We can do it.
No. Let's not do it. I'm just going to describe it. So if you go to Google Maps, you go to 2101 Telegraph, you will see this like basically like 4-story tall brick building with some beautiful colonnades out front, and then kind of a layer of atmospheric grime over the whole thing. We are next to a place, what is now looks like a check cashing place. There's a wig store. We're across the street from the City of Oakland parking garage. We're very close to the Paramount Theater, which is exciting. Anyway, really just kind of like tumbleweeds blowing through here when we were here, but like for us it was unbelievable.
Yeah,
and
fancy office.
It was a place where we could get the NaNoWriMo t-shirts, stickers, and buttons out of my living room, and into tubs in this office, and it became the place where NaNoWriMo really kind of like grew into itself, and we hired Lindsey Grant, and like we started having a full-time cadre of people who were helping this event function. And I think like there in the great scheme of NaNoWriMo, just this like the moments I think that were totally life-changing and jaw-dropping to me were the moments I think when watching in the third year when we went from having like 200 people to having like 5,000 people that weren't all just friends, that was a moment of feeling like this thing is like escaped the lab and is now like reproducing in the wild. And then I think the other big moment was like having a space, like having a key that we would unlock. And I remember just like at night sometimes when we were kind of getting ready to close down, I would just come out onto the sidewalk here at 2101 Telegraph, and I'd look in through these big, tall, old windows, and the lights would be on, and there would be people in the office, and just thinking like, this is real. Like this is real. And it was a real kind of pinch me moment, I think. Yeah.
Well, I've always been intrigued.
Lean in. We got to make sure.
I've always been intrigued how this just kind of happened to you. Like you're living your life. You've got certain career ideas, choices, whatever. You write a novel in a month in 1999, and it becomes so overwhelming. It directs
Yeah.
Everything, right? Like at some point you must have said, hey, this is happening.
Yeah.
This is real. This is my life. It's going to be my work life too.
Yeah.
It's going to be Tavia's work life.
Yeah. Lindsay's work life.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Dan's work life. Bradford's work life. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for the first many years, I was also a freelance writer. So I was doing record reviews and band profiles and travel writing for Lonely Planet. And as National Novel Writing Month continued to grow and take up more time, and as we started this idea of a nonprofit, the idea was also to launch a year-round series of events. So we wanted to do things with other forms of writing, and we wanted to, possibly have a nano revision, other events to help you do great things in the world. And that was when I realized this thing that started as just sort of oh my God, this is a crazy event and we drink a lot of coffee and write books and get to know strangers. I think there was this idea this could be my job.
Yeah.
And I just feel this is a lesson that I just really want to share with everybody out there. Again, we're parked in downtown Oakland or uptown Oakland in front of 2101 Telegraph, the very first NaNoWriMo offices. Grant and I are sitting in his car right now. We have a giant pencil in the back. But I one of the lessons that I think I've learned from this pencil and NaNoWriMo in general is just that when people tell you that certain interests that you have, certain passions that you have just aren't feasible as jobs or careers. I just having lived this experience where this thing that I loved that was super wacky ended up becoming a life and a career and ultimately a nonprofit organization that provided health insurance for 7 beautiful humans and
changes lives.
It changes lives, and I just feel if encouraging people to write novels in a month can be a viable career path, I will say that whatever ideas you have that you feel passionate about, that also can be a life for you. And really to not I think there are a lot of naysayers out there that are sort of oh, is this practical? As an anthropology major, I will tell you that I heard from all of them. It's this idea of just following what you are curious about, that you are excited about. I think that's just such a great way to live, and it opens so many interesting possibilities.
Such as riding in a Viking helmet. I just have to put this on.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to drive with these, but as you can see, the horns hit the seat. I can't drive at this angle. I think I'd get pulled over. But I think we have 2 more stops.
But I'm loving. Let's just hang out.
You want to hang out here? Okay,
yeah,
okay,
let's hang out here a little longer.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm for it. Yeah, this is too bad we can't go in.
Yeah.
So I want to see. Have you ever? You've done every NaNoWriMo, is that right?
Yes.
Or have you taken a year off?
No years off.
No years off.
All NaNoWriMo all the time.
Do you have? So that's 18 novels, right? Is my math right? 18.
That feels about right.
Yeah, something like that. Round up to 20.
Okay.
Do you have one favorite NaNoWriMo novel?
I mean, I think of NaNoWriMo novels as they're like my children. So I have one real life child, Henry, who is not 50,000 words long. He's
tall though.
Yeah, he's tall. But these other children, I think, it's hard to pick. There are clearly some children who I don't like very much. So in some ways, it's actually easy to pick.
But you don't tell them.
I would say get rid of all of those children, of which I would say of 18, there were probably 11 children that I enjoyed spending time with. I feel like this metaphor is completely breaking down. But
those children. Yeah, so, I think the children part maybe.
Okay, if you're just tuning in, we are talking about
not children, not getting rid of children, getting rid of novels.
No children were injured in this discussion. So yeah, I've done NaNoWriMo 18 times. I have loved every single one of them. I think just I've learned something from all of them. I would say many of you out there who have done NaNoWriMo for a bunch of years, there's some that just have something magical to them. For me, it's probably I would say 6 of the 18 are just there's just stuff I really love in here. And in terms of favorites, the first year is hard to beat, right? Because that's a year where you go from the sense of impossibility to like finished first draft, and it opens up this part of you that you didn't know was there. Mm-hmm. You're just like, wow, I can do this. Mm-hmm. This is possible. Mm-hmm. It's not a great book, but it's like a start, and so I'd say that first year is good. I'm working on revising one now that is I'm really excited about. It's a coming of age story about a monster who lives in a whaling village, who ultimately immigrates to Canada to work in the frozen yogurt industry, and I'm into it.
Yeah, I happen to say, I got to cut in. I heard Chris read from this novel, and it's super great. So,
thanks, Grant.
Look for it on the shelves sometime. It's really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
At some point in the next 45 years, my inner editor will be defeated, and I will have gotten this thing to the point that I feel like it's ready to share. Yeah, but anyway, of the 18, I mean, it's just like you guys. Like you do this a lot. I think some years you just feel like, okay. I probably won't need to look at this again, but I'm glad I did it. And some years you're just like, this was great. I definitely want to come back to this.
Yeah, I think you got it. That ratio. You write out of 18, you get 6 that you like, and so it's easy to say those other 12 were a waste of time, but I don't think they're a waste of time. I bet you learn a lot just by writing.
Well, think about this. So basically, that was 18 months of work. And in 18 months, I wrote 6 first drafts that I think are have potential. Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What a ratio.
Yeah. If this was baseball, you'd be Hall of Fame hitter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got 2 stops, especially if we end up back at our now current Nano headquarters.
All right.
Should we go? Do you want to take a look? Should we take a picture of this?
This footage is so angle. Okay, you keep going.
I
think Grant's going to have a moment with you alone where he's going to tell you things.
Yeah. I feel like messing with this camera is too tough. Chris is jogging out to take a photo of this big, beautiful, old YMCA building in uptown Oakland. Who do we got here? I'm trying to read. Whisper sweet prompts in our ear, Grant. Okay. Let me think. Prompts. Road trip prompts. Take your main character to a place he or she has never been. Take your character actually on a detour and have them get lost. Nothing better. Am I whispering? I was supposed to whisper. I'm sorry. Have your character get lost. Conflicts happen when you get lost. One person says, "Ooh, mine are already there." Good. Keep them lost. You learn a lot when you're lost. I think that might be a NaNoWriMo principle. I was asked for a prompt while you were away. And I meandered, kind of stumbled into take your characters on detours and have them get lost. And I think that is a kind of a creative principle of NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
Is just to accept getting a little bit lost and not worry about it too much, because beautiful things come when you're in uncertain places.
Yeah, I mean, I think you discover things that you would never discover on your own. You also sometimes get beset by pirates. And
never underestimate pirates in a story. Never.
Okay, so we're going to roll again.
I know where Strahd is.
This is going to be a longer drive, and if you're following along on Google Maps, we are heading to Cafe. And if you're following along through going live. That just cut out. Hi, we're back.
We're back.
Yes, thank you. And we lost everybody that was on that. They're coming back.
Oh, they're coming back. We're sorry. I got a call from a friend.
Yeah. Way to go, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy, for
Kathy messed it all up.
Yeah. And way to go, Grant, for not turning off your phone, too. Okay, so now we're moving through the uptown neighborhood in Oakland, heading to Berkeley, Cafe Strada, and that was where I think we, especially those of us who lived at 77 Vernon Street in that building, would go to sit and write together, which was kind of an, again, I think if you know the rules of novel writing, you do not kind of plan to go to a coffee shop with 6 people and everybody brings their laptops and you just write silently, but not knowing that you're supposed to write alone, we went ahead and wrote together, and it was amazing. And it was kind of ended up, I think, laying the groundwork for much
of what we do.
So many of you who are watching right now kind of spend Novembers doing, which is getting together with friends and new friends and strangers and pirates.
It's brilliant, because I think so many other writing communities or writing organizations or writing workshops or whatever, they forget that encouragement is a vital part of the creative process, and having other people give that encouragement.
Yeah.
You know, and I think NaNoWriMo is founded in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also, given that, I think, so every novel is going to have a variety of points in its creation where you feel like all you want to do is quit, right? That it's just, the plot is horrible, the characters are super one-dimensional and cliched, and I think that one of the things that having a group in the same room helps you do is, like, you just see other people who look like they know what they're doing. Like, they look very confident.
They know how to write a novel.
And they're typing. And so then I think it just gives you that sense of, like, oh God, I can't be the one person in this room who is, like, staring miserably out the window and feeling like I'm a complete fraud and have no business being here, because nobody else is doing that. And then I think that gets you back to the page, and you end up pushing through whatever that thing is, because it's always temporary, right? It's always like these moments of feeling lost. Like, is the way to get through them is just to keep writing. And I think that having people there who are just literally writing in front of you, I think just kind of helps keep you moving. And yeah. But one of the things, too, about when we talk about the website, like, not everybody, I'm seeing some of the comments coming up on the live stream, not everybody has people in their local community to write with. And in fact, not every community has a NaNoWriMo get-togethers. Here in the Bay Area, we're just incredibly lucky. Literally every night of the week in November, there's going to be some event, a get-together, a party, a write-in. But in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, that's not the case. And that's where I think having, like, a central web place that you can come and be part of a writing community in the forums, where maybe the NaNoWriMo forums will be the place where you do word sprints together. Maybe you're doing it on Twitter. I think there are all of these ways to have the internet be like a conduit of creativity and bringing people together. And but I think having, like, a really robust NaNoWriMo website where people can have that experience of, like, a real world write-in but on the internet,
that's
is amazing.
That's one of the key things we're doing with the new site, is that so many people on December 1st, after NaNoWriMo ends, they're like, hey, are people going to keep coming back here? They make such deep connections, creative connections. I always say, I feel like so many people find NaNoWriMo as their creative home.
Yeah.
And so one thing we want to do, the forums, we are live all year, by the way. We're doing stuff all year round to help people write, but we want to make it better. So here's one thing. Last year for the Young Writers Program site, we built the ability to have groups, to be in your own private groups with your friends, and so that you can meet with 8 people. They don't have to be in Berkeley or Chicago or wherever. Yeah. They can be anywhere. But you can form a group with them. Yeah. And talk about writing and get feedback. All those things. Yeah. So that's one part of the new site. Yeah. Amazing. And I interrupted you. No, that was great. I'm glad you did. I'm seeing, so we're getting a very bad connection. If it's laggy, it will get better as we get closer to the great mountain of cell phone towers that exists in Berkeley. Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure. Berkeley probably has, like, a single cell phone tower that has been Berkeley's, they probably don't. I think there's been a lot of controversy over cell phone. We kind of just take in from the neighboring communities and claim that we... Yeah, but here we are. We're in the Temescal now, hot neighborhood of Temescal. So
we're heading north on Telegraph Avenue. Telegraph Avenue was where the very first National Novel Writing Month offices were opened in 2006. And now we're heading kind of up into Berkeley, which is the Community 1, basically it's the immediately north of Oakland.
Yeah, we're about a half mile from Berkeley.
Yeah.
We're going to the Strata Cafe. Should we have people Google map that ahead of time? It's
Cafe Strata.
Cafe Strata. It's one of the most beautiful cafes in Berkeley. You can sit outside.
I would say,
I go there a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the most pleasant places, I would say, in the entire Bay Area.
I'll go with that.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing about Cafe Strata is that I went to UC Berkeley as an undergrad, and that was where I first started getting into coffee. So my parents forbade me from drinking coffee when I was in high school, which, looking back, is like an act of cruelty, because you were never more tired than you are in high school. Like, you're getting up at 7:45.
Oh, 7:45.
No, sorry, school's starting at 7:45. You're getting up at, like, whatever, 6 something.
Yeah.
That's the time for coffee.
That's when I started drinking coffee.
In high school?
I did. I worked in a grocery store and I had to get there at 5 in the morning to stock shelves before school.
Wow.
And I started drinking coffee, and I don't think my parents knew it.
All right.
Anyway, the segment on my coffee drinking is another
keep going,
time.
These are some secrets of Grant's life. Hopefully Grant's parents are not...
Grant and Coffee, my memoir.
Yeah. Really hoping Grant's parents are not listening to this right now.
But coffee is a crucial part of novel writing for many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this coffee shop, Cafe Strada, was where, when I was an undergrad, my gateway drug to real coffee was, they had these, like, they called them Bianca mochas. Which it was like what? Anyway, all it was.
I didn't know that Bianca mochas had influenced NaNoWriMo.
Yes. So a Bianca mocha, I think, was just like a regular mocha with just a lot more sugar in it, and and they were amazing.
I'm googling Bianca mochas.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find the recipe.
Yeah. So anyway, so then fast forward 7 years, and we're coming back there. It's we ended up going there just because there was like a lot of outdoor seating, and I saw somebody actually just so they don't like coffee on here, and I think maybe we're gonna need to talk about that. Okay, we're coming close to driving past my house now.
Your real house.
Yeah, a lot of love for tea out there on here.
Okay, tea's good.
Tea's good.
Never would disparage tea.
Absolutely, cannot disparage tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say tea is foundational to NaNoWriMo as well.
Mm-hmm. So I tell everybody out there, I think it's hard for me to drive and talk. It's like adding the live streaming in. It takes practice, put it that way. You haven't seen it on screen, but there have been 3 near traffic accidents.
Yeah, Grant has been driving horribly. I would say this experiment from a live streaming capacity has been like some of it's successful, but I would say Grant's driving capacity very bad.
If I threw in a little gum chewing, it would like put us over the edge.
Yeah,
you can't do it all at once. So if Chris has like had moments of panic in the midst of a great story, it's because
if you see my eyes kind of getting big and kind of moving over that way, it's because Grant was almost running into somebody.
Yeah, the great NaNoWriMo road trip.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, so we're still rolling. We're at this point now, the Campanile, which is like the Berkeley Bell Tower, has come into view.
That's beautiful.
And we are getting close to campus. So I want to just say, so the very first National Novel Writing Month was in July, and that proved to be like a deceptively easy time to get a table in a coffee shop. And when we moved it the next year, because of that original crew, people just couldn't do it in July. We moved it, we ended up, like, the next available month was November. And that's how National Novel Writing Month ended up in November, was just like people's calendars being full. Mm-hmm. November is a crazily difficult time to get a table in a coffee shop, as all of you out there who try to get tables in coffee shops in November to work on your novels know, because there are a lot of students who are studying for whatever that is, like, basically, like, kind of pre-Thanksgiving midterms, finals.
Yeah.
It's just an intense time, and the Bay Area is blessed with, hundreds of cafes that are great for novel writing. But unfortunately, the same things that make them great for novel writing, which is like tasty coffee, great tea, a big tolerance for people just sitting at the table for long periods of time with headphones in, make them very desirable for students. And so the second year of National Novel Writing Month, we kind of came face to face with that reality, which is like, oh God, July, there's nobody in the campus cafes. It was just us. It was amazing. And then the next year we're having to literally kill people to get at these booths and tables. Mm-hmm. But now we're back in the summer months again, right now on this great NaNoWriMo road trip tour.
Yeah.
And so there will be easy seating again. And this is, I think, one of the... There are many arguments, like when people say, why is it November? Why don't you do it in other times? I think having Camp NaNoWriMo it has been such a beautiful solution to this problem, where you can, if you can't make it in November, you can do it in kind of the more summery months, or if you're in...
So why we do it in July, so you can get a table at Cafe Strada. You can write at Cafe Strada.
Exactly.
That was the motive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's customer service right there.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Because we dug up some screenshots of many different versions of the NaNoWriMo website. I think at least one I'd never seen.
Yeah.
Can you give a little, I mean, if you had one person as a staff in 2006 and she was not a technologist,
yeah,
you've created, we had at least like 5 versions of the NaNoWriMo site, right? Maybe?
I would say 7, probably.
7, okay.
Yeah. So we've always had, we've been very lucky in having technical support. So over the years, we've had people that just kind of did it as a part-time labor of love. So Russ Human is a great example. Before that, it was Dan Sanderson. We've always had people who have kind of helped out in a part-time capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was that made it as a nonprofit affordable because people's
very affordable.
Yeah,
very affordable.
But it also made it kind of unsustainable, and so that was where, when Dan Duvall joined, we finally had a full-time developer, a full-time coder, and that was a game changer. And in the Bay Area, it's tough to find. Because anybody who is going to help out with the NaNoWriMo site could literally be making 4 times what NaNoWriMo can pay them working at a tech company like Twitter or Facebook. And so the people that do come are doing it because they believe in the mission, they feel passionate about this idea of helping kids and teens and adults write. But those people can be really hard to find because they're taking a huge economic hit for themselves and their families by working for a nonprofit rather than working for a tech company. So I think that when we moved into the office, Dan Duvall was kind of our first full-time tech person, and really he helped bring a modern touch to the entire back end. And this is when we kind of ended up launching a lot of what are just normal practices for a technology company, which NaNoWriMo has always been this kind of
technology
funny mix of creative writing and nonprofit and youth education, but also the fundamental backbone is this web presence. And we've really seen a lot of changes in that too, where when we were first starting out, NaNoWriMo had this time-honored tradition of basically becoming completely unusable right around October 28th or so, because everybody's coming and signing up, and this was one of the things that has probably taken maybe 45 years off of my life, is just that every year, no matter what we did, we just couldn't afford to build out the servers to make them ready to handle this surge. And the surge would only last for 3 or 4 days. And so I just remember so many years going to the NaNoWriMo, waking up, dread in my heart. It's October 30th. I go to the NaNoWriMo website, hit enter, and it's a white screen. And then I just head desk.
And were you saying oh no, I've got to manually register thousands of people?
I was I must be the website. I will speak to all of these people. Yeah, that was really tough. And one of the things that when people say when they donate to National Novel Writing Month, I think one of the things that they don't realize how important that donation is, just because web hosting is insanely expensive. And now, thanks to this idea of cloud computing, we've been able to we can spin up 100 servers in an hour if we need to, because we've moved to kind of the AWS. This is really boring stuff, but anyway, basically this idea is we can have infinite on-demand web servers, but it's expensive. It's the raw costs in November alone are $60,000.
It is crazy, yeah, something like that, yeah.
For a month.
I think our web servers cost around $120,000 for the whole year last year.
Okay, $120,000 just for web servers. So when we started out, it's you couldn't just add 700, and so we would just be out a lot of the time, and people were very patient with that, but it was really hard to have these moments, especially when you would have national media. It'd be a big story on NPR or the CBC, and when you would find out that there was going to be this story on National Novel Writing Month, you would cheer, but then I would also just start weeping because I knew that that would essentially take the sites offline.
You'd be on an interview with NPR. No,
don't mention the URL. Do not give out the URL. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've come a long way. It's fascinating looking at those screenshots from your.
Yeah.
I know we're now past our designated time, but why don't we at least make it to Strata?
Okay, that will be our... So we're leaving Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley. We're heading to Cafe Strada. We're driving by historic People's Park. So this was the site of a lot of protests and uprising in the 60s. And the National Guard was called out. The Battle of People's Park ensued. When I was here as an undergraduate, there was another battle, which is that they put in beach volleyball courts, which were seen as the absolute antithesis of what People's Park should be about. We're getting very close to my dorm. So again, we're headed to Cafe Strada in Berkeley. This has been great. Thank you for like riding along with us, writing out some of our technical issues, writing out Grant's
not looking
driving,
at me, not being able to see me.
Yeah, you can only see like Grant's arm. But it's a great arm.
You didn't miss much by not seeing me. You didn't miss much.
But this feels good that we're kind of like ending in a coffee shop.
Where it all began too.
Yeah. So yeah, what like in terms of like NaNoWriMo websites, again, I think the part of like the Great Nano Road Trip is just to celebrate like all of this like great journey that I think we've all been on together.
Yeah.
And I want to say that like donations make that possible, and that I want like my biggest moments of happiness are ones where people who really believe in National Novel Writing Month donate money to make it happen and let it continue to be a force for good in all of our lives. And I think that it really relies on people remembering to just make the time to chip in $5, $10, $15,000, $20,000.
Yeah, whatever you can afford. We've had some magnificently generous donors, and some of those magnificently generous donors are also $10 donors.
Yeah,
people, it's always touching to hear that people said I had a great experience and I donated because of that. You know?
Right.
And I think I've oftentimes heard Chris say, the gift of NaNoWriMo is the novel, the creativity that you discover, and that you do it with others, like in Cafe Strada here.
Right.
So that's worth a lot in life, I think, because we receive so many emails about it. It's not just about writing a novel. It changes people's lives. It changes people's lives. Sorry, I'm off screen all the time.
I keep yanking Grant into
it just gets a little, it's a little hard to lean all the way. I'm in a small Prius, just in case you don't know. I need a bigger car.
I think also as part of this, we wrecked the portrait orientation early in the tour, so that the ability to see both of us and not be viewing like an amazing shot of this mirror here is going to happen.
We're so sorry. Next time we do this, and there will be a next time because it was super fun, we are going to learn how to use my phone and get the wide angle.
But I don't think that level of professionalism may be actually kind of antithetical to what we're going for.
This is like 2001 NaNoWriMo in terms of my live streaming capabilities. So I'm going to get a lot of help, and this is going to get better. But we should probably sign off now.
No, I want to tell one more story.
Okay, one more story. Okay.
So we are at Cafe Strada. We're parked in front of it. You can kind of see like a tree. Maybe there's a person actually you can see who is, that person is maybe a historic part of NaNoWriMo, maybe not. Definitely waving. But so we would come here with our laptops, and this was, in 1999, like laptops, it wasn't common to have a lot of laptops in coffee shops. Desktops. And so people would routinely come up to us during that first National Novel Writing Month, because we'd be filling a booth with like multiple people, all with our laptops up, and they would ask us if we were playing Battleship, and they were not even joking. Like it was just kind of this sense of like, are you guys playing Battle? And we became known as like the laptop people, where when we would show up, they'd be like, oh, the laptop people are here, and I love that was kind of like, I felt like we were it was pre-laptop people, and we became like we were like the NaNoWriMo. I think helped people become the prehistoric version of what is now an incredibly common tribe of people, which are
I think we can safely say that without NaNoWriMo, people would not be working in cafes with devices.
There might not be cafes. I would say we contribute, but like per capita to the cafe industry.
Yeah.
NaNoWriMo participants an unbelievable amount.
There'd be no Friendster without NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, which means no Facebook. Yeah, maybe no internet.
Well, the internet was there, but I think what NaNoWriMo did is it exposed some holes in the internet, like with the site crashes and the cables running out to Rolf and Tim's room. I think the internet wouldn't be what it is now. Like NaNoWriMo is a case study in how the internet improved. Let's make some other big claims.
All right. Well, so thank you guys. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you. I'm going to get in screen. Thank you. We didn't get in a wreck. I really appreciate everyone watching. I wish I could have read all of the great comments coming in. But thank you so much for making NaNoWriMo happen, for participating. It's all about you. So please help us build this next chapter of NaNoWriMo and continue the road trip with a fantastic new website.
Yes. All right. It was great riding and driving with you guys. We'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, here we go. Bye-bye. For real. Hitting the end button now.